Hi. So I heard today that, I heard today that Billy Graham passed away. I got home from swimming and my husband said, Billy Graham passed away, and he was 99 years old. And I thought that I would jump on here and talk to you just a little bit about my thoughts about Billy Graham. Not only Billy Graham, but passion. If you have not read Just As I Am, the autobiography of Billy Graham, and I believe it's written by Jerry Jenkins, as well as Billy Graham. It was just an excellent, excellent book. It made me proud of who he was, who Billy Graham was in his career. I probably read it, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And I thought I was inspired by it. And the reason why I was inspired by it, because when I put it down, I was like, Billy Graham is a normal guy. And he was really kind of stubborn, and he believed passionately in things, in his beliefs. He just believed so passionately, and he didn't cater to the popular crowd that he was around. You know, he got flack for meeting with people that weren't of his same faith. He got flack for that, and he still stood by his convictions. I think one of my favorite stories in the book that's told is how he was actually a Fuller Brush salesman when he first started out. So if you think about a Fuller Brush salesman or any kind of salesman, they're pretty passionate about what they're selling. And so the story goes that he was going door to door selling Fuller brushes, and he was very, very successful. Well, this one day, he came to a woman's door and he rang the doorbell, 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 and they rang the doorbell. And he could tell that people were in the home, and nobody was coming to the door because they said, no, you're a salesman, we don't want what you're selling, and the woman just was not coming to the door. But Billy Graham was kind of a stubborn guy. And when you read the book, Just As I Am, you actually get how passionate and how stubborn he was. So he's there ringing the bell and ringing the bell and ringing the bell and ringing the bell. And finally, whoosh, water comes down from the second floor on his head. And I love that story because I love that it was put in the book. I love that when you read Just As I Am, it wasn't just Billy Graham's successes. It was his failures, his not successes. I'm just making sure that the mic is in here, and I'm not seeing anybody on here. So anyway, I'm just going to keep talking. But Just As I Am is a great book about Billy Graham and about how stubborn he was and how passionate he was, and also how caring and how loving and accepting he was. So regardless of whether people didn't approve, you know, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, all of those people, he didn't care. He didn't cater to the political figures of his time. And I love that. He absolutely got flack. Hi there. He absolutely got flack for meeting with people who weren't of his faith. And I love that. I was thinking today, after my husband told me that he passed away, I was thinking how I'm kind of a little bit like Billy Graham. I'm not saying that I'm like Billy Graham, but I kind of am, because I'm normal. I'm just a normal person, and I'm passionate. I'm really passionate, and I'm pretty stubborn. And one of the things about Billy Graham is if he was invited someplace, he just came. If you read his book, Just As I Am, all the places that he went to, he was just a normal guy. but people invited him and he just showed up, regardless of faith, regardless of political beliefs. He just showed up. And I would like to think that I'm the type of person that if you ask me to just show up, I'm going to show up. And I like to hang out with people like that. I know that there's a local pastor in our area, and I absolutely love this man. I love what he stands for because you just call him and he just shows up. One of my really good friends is somebody that I can just call and she just shows up. And when you think about Billy Graham, don't think about just his beliefs and his faiths. They might have been his faith. It might have been different from yours. But the similarity was he was passionate. So I think about myself and I was thinking, how would I define myself in comparison with Billy Graham? As I've got the little, do you know what this is? Do you know what that is? That's the outhouse that was at my home in Indiana. That's a child outhouse. I just love that. But when you think about Billy Graham, you think about how passionate he was. And I was thinking about how, hi, Susan. I was thinking about the fact that he was passionate and he was liberal in his love and he was conservative in his beliefs. And I was thinking, that's how I want to be. Because when I finished that book by Billy, the autobiography, Just As I Am, I put it down and I thought, anybody can be a Billy Graham. Anybody can be a Billy Graham. You have to be passionate. You have to be pretty stubborn. You have to be pretty doggone stubborn. And the story, when you go back and you listen to this, the story of when he was the Fuller Brush salesman, and he just rang those doorbells and rang the doorbell and rang the doorbell, and he was so successful because he was so stubborn. And I think if you are passionate about what you believe and you are stubborn in your belief, you can be a Billy Graham. You really can be. And I was thinking about myself, and I was thinking, I tend to be pretty liberal in my love. If you saw how accepting I am, I have my lines and my boundaries, but I'm pretty doggone accepting. So I'm liberal in my love and I'm conservative in my beliefs. I kind of am. And I don't want to apologize for that. I want to say, kind of like Billy Graham, I want to say, I'm passionate about something that's bigger than I am, bigger than you are. There's a belief that in me that makes me stubborn and continues to push me forward regardless. In my marriage, I'd like to say I'm pretty liberal in my love in my marriage. I might be rather conservative, but I think I'm pretty liberal in my love. With my kids, with 4 kids, and what they do and what they don't do and who they are and who they aren't, I would like to say I'm accepting. I'm liberal in my love. I might be passionate and conservative in my beliefs, but that's my circle. That's not anybody else's circle. That's not for me to pass on to anybody else. I mean, if somebody asks me, like, hey, how come you don't do this or how come you don't do that? I'd be happy to answer. If somebody asks me for the hope that's inside of me, I'd be happy to sit down and talk to them about that. But that's my beliefs. And so I'm going to kind of challenge you today. I'm going to challenge you. Are you passionate? Do you believe fully in what you say that you believe? Are you ready to stand up for it? And then I'm going to ask you also, are you liberal in your love? Are you liberal? Are you free in your love? 2018 for me, the word for 2018 for me is freedom. And so I keep meditating on freedom. I keep on meditating about, what does freedom mean in all of my relationships, in my relationship with God, in my relationship with other people, in my relationship politically, in my relationship in business. What does freedom mean? And you look at Billy Graham's life, and I would say that his life was full of freedom. I love it that his wife said one time, she was in an interview, and they said, You've been faithful to your husband. Have you ever thought about divorce? And her answer was, divorce? No. Murder? Maybe. And I love that, because I just think when I read Just As I Am and I see how he was gone all the time while she was raising those boys, I just think, yeah, he was really passionate, and his wife was absolutely supportive of his passion and his beliefs. And I think, how are we? Are we passionate? Are we liberal in our love for our spouses? Are we liberal in our love for our children? And are we ready to stand up and say, hey, this is what I believe, and I'm not going to put it on other people, but this is what I believe, and maybe I am conservative in my beliefs. I don't know. If you look at my life, you might think I'm conservative, but I would like to say that when I pass away, the legacy that I would want to leave is similar to Billy Graham's, that he showed up regardless of if somebody was asking him to show up, regardless of their political beliefs, he showed up. And I would like to say that I would like to be a person like that. And I would like to say that I'm liberal in my love, and I might be conservative in my beliefs, but I'm passionate and I'm liberal in my love. And I want to challenge you today. Are you liberal in your love? Are you accepting? Are you willing to be passionate and be stubborn and stand up? And I just encourage you, if you've never read the book, Just As I Am, it is an easy read, and it is wonderful, and it is historical. It's just full of historical things that you might never know. It's just amazing. Hi, Penny. Yep, there's my book title, Liberal in Love. Crazy in conservatism, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so I really appreciate you listening. I hope you've been inspired, and I hope that we can all take seriously what Billy Graham stood for. And he didn't stand for just this little box of faith, and he didn't stand for just this much God. He stood for something much, much bigger than that. And I think that we could all learn from that. We could learn from his passion, we could learn from his stubbornness, and we could learn from his love. And I just appreciate you listening to me today, just rambling on. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks.